Section 3.4 is slope-intercept form. In Section 3, we looked at linear relationships that were proportional. And when that happened, those equations or those linear relationships took on the form of y equals mx. And that's because the graph always went through the origin. So the y-intercept was always 0. What happens when we have a linear relationship that is not proportional? So the only difference between a linear relationship that is proportional and one that's not is that the linear relationship crosses the y-axis someplace other than 0. And when we have this, we use the form y equals mx plus b, where we know m is the slope. That's what we were looking at in the last section. And now this time, our b, instead of being 0, so we wouldn't use it the last time, now we're going to place that at the end. And we're going to put where it crosses the y-axis there. So let's take a look. Given that these equations are solved for y, or that they're in the slope-intercept form, you can identify the slope-intercept, the slope and the y-intercept. To do this, we find the x variable and first identify what that number is out in front of the x. Now, sometimes your number out in front of the x is going to be a 1, and you won't see a number, but it's there because the x is there. If the x is there, we have 1x, so we have that. So let's look at some of these examples here. We're going to first identify what are the number in front of the x's. So here's our term that has the x. The number that's right there in front of it is -5. So that's the slope of this line. Slope is -5. And we're going to look on that side with the x and see what plane number is there. And we take the sign along with that number, and we say b is equal to 3. So we have our slope, we have our y-intercept when we had that equation, y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. Here's our x term. Here's our number out in front of it. So our slope is 1/4. And our y-intercept is that plane number that's on this side, which is -6. Well, this is the one that we have an x, we have a minus sign out in front of it. How many x's do we have here? We just have 1, so that's that implied 1. So m equals -1 because we have that negative sign there. M equals -1, and the plane number that's on that side with the 5 or with the x is 5. So we can look at these equations and quickly identify what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. Now, how do you create an equation when you know the slope and y-intercept? Well, there's two ways that we can know the slope and the y-intercept right now. And that is when they tell us outright what the m is and what the b is. The slope is 5 and y-intercept is 9. If in this case, we go back to that form y equals mx plus b, we leave the x and the y in the equation. Those don't get replaced. And we say y equals, our slope was 5x, our y-intercept was 9 plus b. So we just replace those m and b in the equation there. Now, if they give you a graph, this is the second way that they could ask you to create an equation from a graph. So the first thing we want to do is we want to identify where does this cross the y-intercept, the y-axis. Remember, our vertical axis is our y-axis. So where is that line crossing it? Right there. And that value is -2. So when I look at this, I'm going to say that b is equal to -2. So that's where it crosses the y-axis. From there, I'm going to find another point that crosses the line where the line crosses the hash marks. It's right there. And so I'm going to look at my rise, 1, 2, 3, for 5. Rise is equal to 5. And my run is equal to 1, 2, 3. So I have a rise of 5, a run of 3. So my slope is 5 over 3. Once I have those two values, then I'm going to create my equation by replacing the m and the b in the equation. So y equals 5/3 x minus 2. Now I could put plus a -2. That's all right also. That's another way to do it. So that's what they're looking for in this chapter, coming up with an equation of a line using the slope-intercept form, and you either are able to get the slope and the intercept if they give you the equation, or you can create an equation by knowing the slope and the y-intercept and putting those into the graph.